public education expenditures per college student in Korea was found to be far below the OECD average.
한국 대학생 1인당 공교육비가 OECD 평균에 훨씬 못 미치는 것으로 나타났습니다. Now, this is interesting because from the headline, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on.
Yes.
그러니까 정확히 무슨 말인지요?
All right, so this is the money that the government and public institutions are putting into schools.
아하.
So it could be the actual building, it could be the cost for the people to teach and run the school, all expenses related to school. That is what they're measuring here. But the Ministry of Education and the Korean Education Development Institute looked at some of the figures that the OECD put out. And out of 49 countries, Korea only puts 67% of the average to universities.
그러면은 대학교 100%를 넣어야 되는데 우리는
평균하자면 100%
on
해야
average,
하는데
on average,
Yes.
we're only putting in 66%. So that means that they're not getting as much funding.
Right. So they're only getting 67% of the average per university student, which comes out to $13,573. 약 1,823만 원 정도 네, 투자하고 있습니다. 네.
Okay.
But to give some reference, the US and the UK actually invest about the most, and per person it's about 3만 5천 달러예요.
미국에는? 네.
And Korea is about 1/3 of that. 그 금액에서 3분의 1 수준이에요.
아, 그럼 좀 많이 떨어지네요.
Yes, this is 1인당 공교육비거든요.
네, 네. Yes.
So it's not the total amount, it's that averaged with each person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, Korea is spending, but then Korea is spending more than the average OECD. They're spending more where?
Yes. So
Okay, this is confusing.
this is where it gets confusing because you always hear 교육비 너무 비싸잖아요.
네.
It's going towards elementary, middle school, and high schools.
Oh, like the secondary schools.
Yes. So while they're paying less on average to universities, they're actually spending about 12% more than the average to these lower levels.
Got it.
Right? So that is where all of the education investment is going to, all of this education expenditures. So it really is something that might be an issue because, as we know, there are
less children, less students.
Yeah, there are fewer younger
children, right.
So there's a lot of money going to fewer students in the younger ages,
Right.
and less money going to those higher up grades. So that's why the OECD is saying that they suggested that there were some changes in how funding was distributed.
Right, so put more money into the colleges. Okay. Let's look at this expression, expenditure.
Yes.
Expenditure. Expend, expenses. They're all kind of similar.
Yeah, 비용, 지출, 경비. So all of the money you're having to pay, usually like a business, you can talk about like household expenditures, 가족으로 가족에서 가정 지출, 비용. But yes, expenditure is often used in an official way to talk about government expenditures.
Yes, that's right.
The money that the government is spending or a business is spending.
네, 공공기금의 지출, 경비. Okay, and it's not just below.
Yes.
It's far below the OECD average. So when you add that word far, 훨씬이죠.
Yeah. So far means 멀다, right? So it's talking about the difference being very far in distance, and in more natural Korean, you would say 훨씬.
훨씬, far
나잖아.
below.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope our universities will soon get the appropriate funding. And let's read that news piece one more time. Public education expenditures per college student in Korea was found to be far below the OECD average.